Welcome back to the Hockey Shop Source for Sports. We're down here in Goalie Utopia, surrounded by, we got the pad wall over there you can't see, but behind us, we got a new angle today. And speaking of angles, this whole segment is all about them. We're standing in front of the glove wall here in the Hockey Shop goalie department with Cam Matwiv to try and get a better feel, a better understanding of glove breaks. I think, frankly, we've got the definitive piece. Our reviews over the years of CCM equipment have talked a lot about the 600 break, the 590 break, and the 580 break, which, whether other brands want to use it or acknowledge it, is frankly become an industry standard for how a glove feels. Outside of maybe Brian's, everybody else has models that roughly fit within those guidelines. So we thought, for those of you who want a visual representation, a video that you can go back to over the years and not just see how those brakes are supposed to feel in your hands, but what other brand models will match the brakes that we think of when we think of that CCM 600, 590, and 580. We're going to turn it over to Cam to walk us through it. But first, let's hear from Stuart Skinner of the Edmonton Oilers, a goaltender who has used all three brakes, to talk about how he went from the same order we're going to go today: 600, 590, 580, in that order.
So nice. I used to do 600s, and then I switched to 590s because I could catch a little bit better. And then I got called up. I think it was my first time I got called up to the NHL, and Smitty was like, what the hell are you using? And I was like, oh, this is the 590. And he like kind of just showed me the 580. And I was like, oh, do you like this? He's like, if you wear it, you'll never change. So I wore it, and then I ordered it, and I've never changed since. I mean, I love the 580.
Okay, so there you go. Stuart Skinner started in the 600, went to the 590, and then after practicing with Mike Smith, quickly found himself in the 580. Let's now go to Cam to describe how those gloves feel differently and get a visual representation, try and get a feel of how it's going to fit on your hand, how it's going to close around your hand. Starting, Cam, with the 600, a glove that was basically built for Carey Price as he transferred out of the Vaughn models and into CCM, built for him by CCM. A glove that I think, Cam, is most commonly associated, the language around it is baseball glove, first baseman's mitt, a glove that sort of closes a little more with your fingers pulling towards your thumb.
Correct. Yeah, and again, you touched on it there as a glove that was created to kind of transfer, Price over from his Vaughn gloves that he used previously. A lot of this feel kind of derivates back to, again, that first baseman fit, that roll of quarters in your hand. You're bringing your kind of full hand kind of closure. I do find a lot of people kind of equate this glove to some of the older Vaughn gloves like the T5500. A little bit of that Epic glove, the 8800 as well, all kind of being sandwiched into one to kind of create a little bit more of that, full hand kind of style of a closure. Sits upright, sits forward, very basket style of a catch. There are a few gloves on the wall that are kind of similar to it, which I'll show you here in a second. In terms of, again, what makes this glove right for you, kids that play baseball, guys that play baseball, kind of transferring through to get a little bit of that similar feel. This is what you're going to kind of get it from, for sure. So great place to start. There are some things that are similar, and we can kind of show you along here too as well.
And the one other thing I would say about the 600 is you can see where the pocket is positioned relative to the hand. It extends out and away from the fingers. So we've had this discussion with glove makers over the years. If you find that you're missing pucks towards the outer edge of the glove, this is one that's going to move that pocket up. And sort of out and away from the hand as opposed to being up and above the hand a little bit.
Correct.
Okay, Cam, so give me all the gloves that match CCM 600, obviously True with the same exact nomenclature and similar feel of closures, like the brake lines are going to be the same on a True 600. So we got True, we got CCM. What other models match the 600 brake?
So the current Bauer Ultrasonic with the mock coming up here. Again, that same style of closure, that same style of fit. We've got the Vaughn standard V9 series glove. Similar story. The Brian's genetic to a point, just based off of its overall style of feel, not necessarily the exact same in terms of how it pinches on your hand, but closure angle ends up being, very similar to that 600. And then the Vaughn SLR3, bit of a similar pinch. I find it's a bit of a higher thumb angle, but once again, its presentation in that stance becomes similar.
And again, the break angle as the focus today, that's going to be similar to the 600. All right, okay, let's move on to the 590.
590, a good classic that's been on the wall for quite a number of years. Initially coming about with the Coho 590 series. Overall feel-wise, a little bit more of bringing that index finger in to the thumb, as Kevin will show you here.
More into the sort of base of the thumb.
Correct.
As opposed to, we said with the 600s, a little more like sort of like that. This is a little more into here, probably around the base of the thumb.
So what we really find with this one, I can set it forward in a stance. To me, I never played baseball as a kid. This was
we can tell every time you try and catch a puck.
The first glove that I ever got to try was an actual Reebok 590, and this has always been the break angle that I've kind of gravitated to. A, it's kind of what I've known the best, but also B, is the most natural in terms of my hand closure. It's easiest for me to kind of close off the wall. Even gloves that are quite stiff, I still find it's not too much of a difficulty for me. Everyone's hand strength is going to be different. Everyone's hand position in terms of feeling of comfort is going to be a little different. But for me, this glove has kind of always been, it's been there, it's chugged through. A lot of guys kind of switch out of it, but then come back to it. We've had some recent kind of NHL guys switch into it. Carey Price
would be the model. I mean, it's funny, as much as the 600 break was a glove that was built for him, it was actually at one of the camps with us up with Eli Wilson, where all of a sudden he was in a 590, and that created quite a stir. Again, we talk about the way a glove closes. You can see the break, instead of being a little more out this way, it's a little more up this way, so that fingers sort of pull into the base of the thumb and that break line stays clean up. Again, instead of that pocket being positioned a little further out, it's a little more above the top of that pinch. So even if you're holding it up here, again, the orientation of that pocket changes on this break compared to one with the 600 where it's a little flatter and a little more of a pinch. This one is closing into your hand a lot more.
Correct. Now, there's actually a couple gloves that are very, very similar, if not almost identical.
Again, CCM 590, True 590, same breaks. What other models in each brand is going to match that break angle and somewhat feel of a 590? Let's start with Bauer.
So the Bauer Hyperlight, similar story, same break angle, same style of feel as you're closing the glove itself. Even next, you've got the Warrior G5 as well. That glove again being replaced, coming here quickly, but similar feel and closure and angle. The Vaughn V9 XP, almost identical to that CCM 590 glove. And we've also got the optic. It similarly fits more so into this 590 category, but it also splits the difference between that 590 and 600 in terms of overall feel and break angle itself.
All right, last but not least, certainly not least in the National Hockey League over the last couple of years, a glove that has become increasingly popular in the NHL. We heard from Stuart Skinner getting switched over by Mike Smith at the start of this segment. The 580. Again, CCM and True, similar type break. Explain 580 to me, how it closes and what separates it.
Notorious glove angle. Started with actually Patrick Waugh wanting to catch more pucks by his ears by just having to turn his glove inwards as he was dropping down, an easier save of guys going above his shoulder. That kind of style went a little bit away and has really come back in this different, teachings of goalies for having that forward hand position straight up and down. And that's one thing that the 580 does extremely well because of its presentation and fit. I don't have to do anything. I don't have to turn my hand. It's already got that T-pocket pointed up. That has to do with that 90-degree closure.
And again, when we talk about the way it closes around the hand, 600 sort of closes finger to thumb. 590, a little more, the index finger comes into the base of the thumb, around the palm, and this one very much is more pulling you into the palm. And as Cam said, what defines the 580 is the way that pocket turns at the top. It's almost like a slightly steeper 590 through the palm, but the way that pocket turns over at the top, as goalies talk about, it actually, you can hold your hand straight up by here and it'll actually almost close sort of over the shoulder by the ear. where you can see that unique twist, and that's what to look for in the National Hockey League to know whether a guy's in a 590 or a 580 is when it closes, does the top of that pocket sort of flip over?
Correct. A couple notes with this glove as well in terms of overall feel and kind of what it's really good for. Playing the pucks. So some of the best puck players that you have seen in the NHL have been 580 users. A little bit of that reason is, again, when you're playing that fingers up, Turco kind of grip style, I'm just grabbing the stick and pushing through right away because that pocket's already facing up. I don't have to tilt my glove in any direction to kind of fit the stick. It's kind of already ready there. Interesting overall feel. It's one I've kind of struggled with to try and use, but I have tried it a couple different times, and I could see definitely where the attraction to it is. I'm sure if I used it a little bit more, I could probably get there.
Well, I was going to say too, the other thing, 590 as well, and all the gloves that break in a 590 angle still have that. It's still easier to sort of, because it's pulling that thumb into the palm, that's easier for a Turco grip. The one that I find becomes tougher for a Turco grip is that 600, where that pocket is sitting out. And you'll see Carey quite often just pass the puck old school style as opposed to turning it over with the Turco grip. So, I've actually talked to goalies at all levels that do feel like that you need that 590, 580, certainly that style of break around the hand does make it a lot easier to get that Turco grip. And there you can see, folks, I know Cam likes to talk about the glove, but he's holding it like this. We want to get it out here. You can see that unique sort of closure and how when you have that fingers up and out, that pocket almost forms. So again, a lot of this is how it closes around your hand. 3 different unique styles in terms of how it closes. But the other part of this equation is where that pocket sits relative to your hand, both in presentation and as it closes.